This video is brought to you by the Historic Blacksmith Conservancy, dedicated to the collection, preservation, and advancement of historically significant blacksmiths and their practice. Any big project starts with an idea, and the idea for this gate is loosely inspired by a gate that was on Samuel Yellin's shop. That gate was stolen at some point in the past. Then it was recreated as a memorial project for Harvey Yellin. Now, I don't want to reproduce this gate exactly. My goal is not to make an exact copy. It's to be inspired by that kind of work, make something of a similar feel, and really get an idea what it takes to do something like that. So after you got an idea, you got to start doing some sketches and see where that idea takes you. So I've been making sketches in my sketchbook now for a little while, and I've got a half dozen different sketches, all just a little bit different to kind of see what I might like to do with this project. Once I got all those sketches done and I thought I had a pretty good idea, I did it on graph paper. This forces me into 1/8 scale, which is really hard to get accurate when you're just drawing with a pencil and a ruler. But it gives me an idea of what I want, and I like where the design is going. From there, it's time to get out a bigger piece of paper, a drawing board, a T-square, and try to do a better job of producing a halfway decent drawing. And even though at the time I thought, this is it, this is the final version, once I get here into the shop, I start looking at some different things. I start looking at the relationship of materials and material sizes, and I think I'm going to let that guide some decisions. And once I'm sure what material sizes I'm going with, for instance, these sidebars were originally going to be 3/4 by 1-inch bars. I think I like the verticals on the outside as 1-inch bars instead. And then I'll use the 3/4 inch bars on the inside. That just gives the frame a little bit more weight and hopefully makes the gate just a little bit more substantial. But with those decisions made, now it's time to go on to a full-size layout and lay out as much of this as I can. There'll be a few test pieces that will inform some other decisions, like these scrolls at the top. I want to do some test pieces and see exactly what size I like those in real material so I know what I'm really looking at. So today I need to get busy working on a full-size layout. Then I need to get busy doing test pieces. But before I can do the full-size layout, I got to go to town, get a piece of sheet metal large enough to actually do the layout on. Shooting this with a little flat black spray paint really helps the drawing stand out, makes it a lot easier to get accurate results. So with a measured drawing showing what I want my layout to be, I know what generally I'm going for here. Almost exact, but there's going to be a few small changes that I've mentioned earlier. Anyways, it's time to create a full-size drawing. Does every project need a full-size drawing? Probably not, but it is best practice, and it gives you something to compare pieces to as you forge, double-check measurements. If your drawing is accurate and you forgot to calculate a measurement, you can just measure it off the drawing. How long does this piece need to be? You take your ruler and you measure the drawing because it's an accurate drawing. So that's where I'm at now. I'm not going to go through this entire process with you. We've looked at this before, and it's really just a matter of transferring all of the lines from this to this, or at least all of the important lines. I'm probably not going to show all of the little twist pattern on the full-size layout. I know those bars are twisted. I don't have to show every little detail. As you work on something like this, you really should have a 0 point, someplace to which all other measurements are taken. If you're measuring from left side, right side, top, bottom, the odds of making a mistake are much greater. If your piece of sheet metal is not perfectly parallel, perfectly square, you're going to end up creating problems for yourself. So I am going to start this. This is going to be the bottom of the panel. This will be the left side. I'm going to take all of my measurements off this left edge, first creating a line that represents the left edge of the gate. That becomes my 0 line. All other measurements within the gate originate off of that line. Hope that makes sense. An 8-foot straight edge would come in really handy. My gate is 38 inches wide. I had this piece of sheet metal cut down to 42 inches just because I wanted to maintain as much room to walk around it as I could, and I don't think I'll ever need the full 4-foot sheet. If I do, I'll have to buy another one. So 38 inches is 2 inches from each side, so I'll come in 2 inches to create that first line that is my 0 point for all my other measurements. Now, a scribe line with a steel scribe is the most accurate line you could use for something like this. If that kind of precision is necessary, definitely go with a scribe. A soapstone is probably the least accurate. You can sharpen a soapstone, they wear out fast, so you got to keep sharpening it. And it's probably not bad for most things that you're going to be doing. My preference is a silver pencil. It's somewhere in between. I like these lead holders that hold a silver pencil lead. The back end of it comes off, has a little sharpener in there, so you can sharpen the lead. I don't worry about that too much, it wears out so fast. But I think this is a good compromise. These are Markall Silver Streak. They're available at most welding suppliers. Now, this outer line that I'm drawing actually represents the door opening, not the gate itself. The gate has to be built inside of this, but if it doesn't fit in the opening, it's not going to fit in the finished gate. The exact shape of those scrolls will be finalized through test pieces to see what it is I really like. Sometimes the drawing gives me a good idea, but it looks a little bit different in iron, so I like to do my final design work in the iron with the test pieces. I will do some sample joints, make sure I like the way those are going together and the way they look laid out on the finished project. I'll do sample twists to find out if they get longer or shorter when you do the twist, and I'll do some sample scrolls. If you get all the material to the point you're ready to start assembling it, and you find out that something doesn't fit right, something doesn't look right, then you've wasted a lot of time and effort. So doing the test pieces, doing the samples really pays off. I'd like to take a moment and thank the Historic Blacksmith Conservancy for not only sponsoring today's video, but for sponsoring this project in general. This is the kind of project that I really want to do more of, but it gets me out of my comfort zone, and I need a little nudge sometimes to actually get to work on this stuff. And when the Historic Blacksmith Conservancy reached out to me and said, we would like to work with you so that you can present this style of work to your viewers, that was the nudge I needed to get to work on this gate. So I really want to thank them for working with me. The Historic Blacksmith Conservancy nonprofit was founded by a group of passionate metalsmiths, historians, and visionaries who want to preserve the legacies of past masters of blacksmithing, to collect, conserve, display their tools, patterns, samples, drawings, photographs for exhibit, study, and also provide educational opportunities for all. So hopefully they're going to become a great resource that we're all going to have access to, instead of only a very chosen few being able to see the tools and the drawings and the photos from some of these masters. And if you'd like to support this effort, I will leave a link to their website below. You can donate to the nonprofit to help them get started in acquiring all of this information and the archival data that is sure to help all of us out in our blacksmithing journey. But now I need to get back to work on some of those test pieces. I'm going to punch some holes just to see how much the bar changes dimension when I punch the holes. Most of the holes I'm punching are going to be 1/2 inch square. So I'm using a 1-inch slot punch, and when I upset that bar down, that gives me enough volume in the hole to get that 1/2 inch square hole, and it gives me lots of material on the outside edge, both for strength and because I like the look of that big swell around a punched hole. But that means the bar is going to get shorter as I do that. As I upset that, the bar is getting shorter. How much shorter? That's what I need to find out. There are also some 3/4 inch round holes, 3/4 inch square holes. I need to do test pieces for all of this to see how much my bar changes dimension before I start laying out the final pieces. So let's get back to work. As I start working on test pieces, the first thing I want to do is knock the corners off the bar. This is something I will do for the final piece, so I want to make sure that the test pieces include that detail. so I know whether or not that changes the length or the dimensions of the piece in any way, and I can deal with that as I need to. At this stage, my theory is that I will lose a 1/4 inch on each side of the hole as I upset that slot punch down to a round hole or a square hole. So that's what my layout is initially, and then I'll measure it and see what it ended up to be in reality. Now for the punched holes, you always get some punch suck in when you're punching the hole, and that thins the bar a little bit. So I'm going to upset the bar before I do the punched holes, and that way I should be able to keep the bar thickness the same after I'm done. Again, that's part of what I'm testing here. And I think I can do most of that with the induction forge, so I get a nice isolated heat. A torch with a rosebud is another good way of doing this. But since it's going to be close to 100 degrees here today, which means it can get up to 110, 120 in the shop, I'm going to try not to run the gas forge unless I have to. I should have enough of a bulge showing here that I can turn it over and start from the back. If I punch too far from the front, that's going to end up with kind of a taper on the outside, and I don't want that. So I want to punch evenly from both sides. I want to upset that slot down and try to form a square hole. When it's close to being a 1/2 inch square hole, I'll go ahead and drift it. It looks like I do need to go back to the gas forge so I can get a longer heat for this scroll. I'm going to put a little curved transition in the 1 inch square bar, go down to about a 1/4 of an inch, then draw that out to a nice taper, and that will then scroll up into this tight scroll at the top of the gate. Now, occasionally somebody will ask about the cooler that I have on my induction forge. It's the 10-liter version. It's about the smallest that I thought I could get away with. Today's a hot summer day. It's hot in the shop. I'm heating big bars, doing lots of repetitive heats, and that cooler is not keeping up with the task. So I should have gone with a bigger cooler. I'll probably either go to a 25-liter cooler or check out Coal Iron Works chiller. It's actually a refrigerated unit that really helps keep these things cool so they run better. In any case, I have to abandon the induction forge for this project, at this point anyways. So I'm going to light the gas forge, do this last little bit of this test piece, and then I'm probably going to quit for the day because this is going to make it even hotter in here. I've been working on this for about a week now, including the drawings, doing some of the test pieces. I have most of those done, and I've answered most of the questions I had, and I'm about ready to get started working on this gate. I think I'm going to go ahead and assemble the test pieces that I have that are the way I want the finished gate to look like into a small sample piece. And maybe in the next video when we start working on the gate, I'll be able to show you that sample piece. If this were a client project, making that sample is an important part of making sure that you and your client understand what it is you're offering them. It's not the full project, but it's the full-size components in a smaller segment. In this case, it's going to be these top elements that I've been working on here, and we'll look at all these in more detail as we get to those. But it'll be those, and it'll be the bottom bar brought up, so it won't be everything in between. So it'll just be a piece about this big that shows the scrolls, shows the twist, shows the animal head, shows how the heel bar at the bottom of the gate is done. All the critical things will be in that sample piece. And then that's something I can refer back to as I build the gate. I should have all the information then for finishing the gate and getting it right. Now, as far as looking at all of the details of how the twist was done, how these scrolls were done in this forge welded scroll, how I'm going to do the heel bar at the bottom of the gate, how I'm going to set up the lock for the gate, all of those things we'll cover in detail. And each of these components, or each style of component, I won't repeat the twist 3 different times, but we will look at this twist pattern, how I'm doing that, how I'm managing to keep it even and straight over what is about a 5.5-foot bar that's twisted pretty much its entire length, how we're going to do the forge weld, all of that stuff. We'll look in detail in specific videos on each of those components for this gate. I'm not going to do this straight through. I would like to. I'd like to work on nothing else in the shop for the next month or 6 weeks. And I think that's about what this would take me, is 4 to 6 weeks just to finish this project if I worked on nothing else. But there are other projects that have to be done, and I know not everybody is interested in just watching this. So we're going to get back to work on our little lock project we started a few weeks ago. I want to get that done. I don't want to push it aside and forget about it. So we'll get back to work on that. I've got some of these brackets that I need to make 3 more of, so we'll look at making the bracket and the scroll and assembling something like this, and talk about the finish that's on this. Plus, there are some tools that need to be made for this gate to make the job go a little bit easier, some things that I didn't really have the exact tool I wanted as I was doing the sample pieces. Another reason you do sample pieces, do you need to make tooling? Then make the tooling and your life will be easier. So lots of things going on here at Black Bear Forge, lots of things for the next few months. I suspect the gate project will be about 6 more videos, and I'll probably try to do 2 a month, hopefully get it done by the end of the year. Possibly it'll be done sooner, possibly it'll take longer. One thing about doing a project like this, I enjoy it more and I do way better work if I don't care how long it takes me. As soon as I start worrying about the clock, as soon as I start worrying about the hourly rate, what kind of pay there is at the end, did I bid this job right, I cease to enjoy it, I start hurrying, I don't do as good a work. But since this is for me and there's no paying client at the end, I can take as long as I need to on it and I can enjoy the process. This has been one of the most pleasurable weeks I've had in the shop working on this, even though looking at this pile of parts, I didn't really get that much done. But that's an important thing to remember as you progress in your blacksmithing journey. Take your time, try to get it right, try not to be too focused on the clock. It's tough when you're trying to make a living, but you'll be a better blacksmith if you can relax a little bit, slow down, and enjoy the process. In the meantime, I hope you have time in your day to get out to your shop, make something, enjoy the time spent in the shop, but be safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next video.